You know that puffy face you sometimes catch in the mirror first thing in the morning? The one with the heavy eyes, the soft jawline, and cheeks that look just a little waterlogged? There's a very real chance it has absolutely nothing to do with your age and nothing to do with your weight. It's the exact same story with stiff, aching shoulders and a neck that never quite seems to let go. Here is something most people are never told. Your body comes built in with several natural pumps, and their entire job is to keep fluid from pooling in your face and neck. When those pumps are up and running, you look fresh and your shoulders feel light. But when one small muscle sitting right on top of your shoulder locks up, it quietly presses those pumps shut, leaving that fluid with nowhere left to drain. And here is the part that should make you want to stick around. You can actually switch those pumps back on yourself, at home, in about 10 to 15 minutes using nothing but your own two hands. No clinics, no expensive machines, and no injections required. Let me show you exactly how this works and why the science actually holds up. Before we dive right into it, if you are looking for clear, honest health information, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. That is what carries this channel toward our goal of 300,000 subscribers. Plus, the full checklist and extra deep dive posts go up on my Telegram channel, and you can scan the QR codes on your screen right now to join. Let me start by describing what this actually feels like, because you've probably been living with it for so long that it just blends into the background of your day. You wake up, and your face looks a full size bigger than it did the night before. Your eyes seem smaller, your cheeks feel heavy, and the clean, sharp edge of your jawline has gone a little soft. By mid-morning at your desk, your shoulders feel like they are carved out of solid stone. And by the afternoon, there is this dull, dragging ache right across the back of your neck that no amount of shifting in your chair seems to fix. You roll your shoulders, you stretch, maybe you even book a massage, and for a day or two, it eases up. Then, like clockwork, it all comes rushing back. Most people just shrug and decide this is what getting older feels like. But it isn't. Here's the real reason any of this happens. And once you see it, everything else completely falls into place. Your face puffs up, your shoulders ache, and your neck stays tight for one underlying reason. The drainage out of your head and neck has slowed to a crawl. Two distinct systems handle that drainage. First, you have your veins, which carry used blood back down toward your heart. Second, you have your lymphatic system, which clears excess fluid and waste out of your tissues. When either one of these systems backs up, fluid stalls and pools in the soft tissue of your face and neck. And here's the core idea to hold on to for the rest of this video. Until you get that drainage moving again, no cream, no face massage, and no expensive cosmetic treatment is going to give you a result that lasts. You will just be wiping away the temporary symptom while the actual cause sits there completely untouched. So, let me walk you through the plumbing, and I promise to keep it simple. No complex Latin terms, no confusing diagrams. Blood arrives in your face and neck through your arteries. An artery is just a delivery vessel that brings blood to the tissue, carrying the oxygen, fuel, and raw materials your cells need to survive. One artery equals one delivery pipe. But the return trip is built completely differently. Each of those main arteries travels with two partner veins running right alongside it. So, while one vessel brings blood in, two vessels carry it back out. On paper, that sounds like an incredibly generous safety margin, double the drainage capacity. But these return veins have one major quirk. Their walls are extremely thin. We are talking paper thin. And that means the exact moment any outside pressure presses down on them, they flatten out completely, and the drainage through them stops cold. Hold that thought, because in just a second, you will see exactly what is doing the pressing. And it is the exact same culprit the entire time. Meet the muscle at the absolute center of this story, the trapezius. It is a broad, flat sheet of muscle that covers the back of your neck and the tops of your shoulders, running all the way from the base of your skull down to the middle of your back. It holds your shoulders in place, it helps support your head, and it gets involved every single time you move your arms. And in the overwhelming majority of people, that muscle is sitting in a state of chronic spasm. Now, the word spasm might make you picture a sudden, sharp cramp, but that is not what this is. This is a low, constant background tension that the muscle holds for months or even years without ever fully letting go. It builds up so incredibly slowly that you stop noticing it altogether. You just call it tight shoulders and move on with your life. Where does that constant tension come from? It comes from ordinary daily life. Sitting for hours, working at a computer, or staring down at a phone with your head dropped forward. And then there is stress, which is a massive factor. When you are under pressure, you reflexively hoist your shoulders up toward your ears and tighten them without ever realizing you are doing it. That is an ancient protective reflex hardwired into our biology. A frightened animal pulls its head down into its shoulders to guard its neck from a predator. You do the exact same thing, except instead of doing it for a few seconds of real danger, you do it all day, every working day, while you answer emails and sit in traffic. Over the years, the trapezius settles into what is known as hypertonus, which simply means too much muscle tension. A muscle permanently stuck in a clenched state it was never meant to hold. And that clenched muscle starts pressing directly down on the very thin-walled veins we just talked about, the ones responsible for draining your face and neck. From there, the chain of events is incredibly straightforward. The drainage pathways get pinched, fluid stops moving out, it pools in the local tissue, and your face puffs up. It is usually worst first thing in the morning, because while you sleep lying flat, gravity isn't helping that backed up fluid escape the way it does when you are standing upright. So it settles overnight. Your eyes look narrow, your cheeks look soft and full, and the clean line of your jaw blurs out. None of it is coming from your age or a few extra pounds. It is plain fluid congestion caused by a muscle that refuses to release. But those pinched veins are only half of the problem. The second issue is your lymphatic system grinding to a halt. Let me explain what lymph even is, because most people have never had this clearly spelled out. Lymph is a clear fluid that runs through your tissues, essentially collecting the leftovers of daily life. That includes cellular waste, byproducts of normal metabolism, and immune cells doing their rounds on patrol. It carries all of that waste off to be filtered through small stations called lymph nodes. Think of lymph nodes as cleaning checkpoints. The ones located in your neck and just under your collarbone are the very first checkpoints for everything draining down from your head and face. When the trapezius is clamped down tight, lymph cannot flow freely toward those checkpoints, so it stalls. The tissue starts to feel soft, doughy, and water-heavy. There is even a clinical word for it, pasty, meaning swollen and spongy to the touch. This is exactly where that second chin comes from, along with the soft fullness over the tops of your shoulders and that heavy, dragging feeling in your neck. It isn't fat in the way most people assume. A massive amount of it is simply trapped fluid that has lost its exit ramp. Now, here is a mechanism almost nobody knows about, and it is a genuinely elegant piece of biology. Your chest actually helps pump fluid out of your neck just by the simple act of breathing. Every time you breathe in, your chest expands, and that expansion creates a kind of vacuum inside your chest cavity, almost like pulling back the plunger on a syringe pump. That general suction literally draws used blood and lymph downward out of your head and neck, pulling it right into the main circulation, heading back toward your heart. And your heart is pulling too, adding its own steady draw from below. So step back and look at what nature actually built here. You have two return veins instead of one, a breathing chest that suctions fluid downward, and a heart pumping behind all of it. That is a system with backup stacked on top of backup, all beautifully designed for one single purpose, so that you do not swell. Yet, the entire thing gets completely choked out by one tight muscle sitting across the top of your shoulder. Read that twice. One single muscle completely undoes all of it. Let us talk about the pain itself, because that exact same problem explains those aching shoulders. When the trapezius stays clenched, it cannot get a proper blood supply because the vessels feeding it are being squeezed shut. A muscle starved of oxygen starts producing metabolic waste, including lactic acid. And because the blood flow that would normally flush that waste away has slowed to a crawl, it builds up and lingers inside the tissue. That buildup directly irritates the nerve endings woven through the muscle, and you feel it as a dull, nagging, tired ache across your shoulders and neck, the kind that is just always sort of there in the background. Sometimes it climbs right up into a tension headache, because the trapezius anchors directly onto the base of your skull and tugs on it when it is tight. Sometimes it shows up as a deep, burning ache right between your shoulder blades. And sometimes you even get numbness or pins and needles running down your arms because a chronically tight muscle in that region can start to crowd the nerve pathways that travel all the way down toward your hands. Here's the truly frustrating part. A lot of people live with all of this for years and just assume it is normal wear and tear. They get told it is arthritis in the neck or some general cervical spine issue, and they are handed pain relievers, muscle relaxers, or maybe a round of physical therapy. Those things can genuinely take the edge off for a while, so I'm certainly not knocking them. But the original driver, that long-standing, clamped-down trapezius, is still sitting right where it was the whole time, because hardly anyone ever gets shown how to work on that muscle directly on their own. That is exactly the gap I want to close today. There is a pattern that turns up in primary care far more often than you would think. Take someone like Linda. She is in her early 50s, works a desk job, and comes in describing a puffy face every morning, shoulders that feel like solid concrete by lunchtime, and a neck that aches no matter how many pillows she sleeps on. Creams don't touch the puffiness, and massages help for a day or two before it all creeps right back. On paper, there is absolutely nothing wrong with her. But the exact moment you look at the tension sitting in her upper shoulders, the entire picture explains itself. That is not a rare case. That is just an ordinary Tuesday. Now, let us get into the technique itself. I am going to walk you through it step by step so you understand the mechanics behind every single move. And because this is hands-on work right next to your neck, it is genuinely worth running past your own doctor first, especially if you have ever had neck problems, circulation issues, or any kind of vascular condition. With that said, let me explain how it works. The entire method runs on one simple concept, a hydrodynamic pump. Picture an old blacksmith's bellows, the kind you squeeze to blow air onto a fire. Squeeze it, and the air gets forced out one end. Let it open back up, and it instantly fills back up with fresh air. Your muscle tissue can be worked in the exact same way. A rhythmic squeeze creates pressure that pushes stagnant blood and lymph out of the congested zone, while the release lets the tissue refill with fresh, oxygenated blood. Repeat that cycle over and over, and you have a pump running at full power, actively driving fluid out of the top of your shoulder. People often call this whole sequence a centrifuge, and you will see exactly why in one of the steps coming up. The method consists of 4 distinct steps, and the order matters immensely because each step prepares the tissue for the next one. The first step is compression, and you can think of it as warming the tissue up. You want to pinch up a fold of tissue over the top of your shoulder, right in the middle, like you are grabbing it tightly with a clothespin. Then, you give it a series of squeezes, somewhere around 8 to 10 of them. Each squeeze should hold for about 3 to 5 seconds with firm, steady pressure where you can really feel the tissue being compressed, followed by about 1 second of release before the next one. A moderate amount of discomfort here is completely fine. It shouldn't be sharp or unbearable, but definitely noticeable. That discomfort actually works as a built-in gauge. If pain hits you instantly and feels intense, you have grabbed way too hard, so ease off your grip. If it builds up slowly and stays a dull ache, that is exactly right. That is the stagnant waste starting to shift and the tissue waking up. As you go, you will notice something interesting. With each squeeze, the discomfort fades a little bit. That is not random, and it isn't just in your head. There is a well-known effect at work here called hyposensitization, which just means your nerve endings turn down their own sensitivity when they receive the exact same mild signal over and over. The receptors essentially get used to the input and stop shouting at every touch. The practical payoff is that the next time you do this, you will be able to work a little deeper with almost no discomfort at all. It is a very familiar phenomenon in hands-on bodywork, and here it is working entirely in your favor. The second step is stretching the tissue in every direction. Keeping your firm grip on that exact same fold, you start pulling it around. First, pull it straight up toward your ear until you feel the tension, then pull it out to the side, then down, and then forward. After that, you start drawing slow, full circles with it, tugging the tissue as far as your grip will allow in every single direction. The point of this is to loosen up the muscle fibers and break apart what are called adhesions. Adhesions are tiny connective tissue stickers that form inside a muscle that has been tense for a long time, quietly preventing it from relaxing the way it should. 7 to 10 full circles is plenty. At first, that fold is going to keep slipping out of your fingers, but don't let it throw you off. Just re-grab it and keep going. If your hands get tired, you have a couple of easy options. You can lift the shoulder you are working on slightly, which takes some of the load off your fingers. Or you can sit down, plant your elbows firmly on a table, and lean forward, which brings your shoulder up toward your hands instead of forcing your hands to reach all the way down. You can even do this lying down on your side or on your stomach propped up on your elbows. That last position is especially easy if your hands aren't very strong or if this is your very first attempt. The third step is the one the whole method is actually named for: loosen your grip. For this, you are no longer squeezing deep into the fold. You are just holding it lightly from the outside. Then, you start rotating the tissue in small circles. Start slowly at first, and then gradually speed it up. Faster, then faster still. Speed genuinely matters here because the quicker you spin the tissue, the stronger the outward centrifugal force you create inside it. That force physically separates the muscle fiber from the fluid that has been trapped inside it. Done correctly, the rotation turns into a brisk vibration, a rapid shaking with the whole surrounding area buzzing right under your hand. You keep going until the fold under your fingers feels like it has gotten smaller and softer, almost like it deflated a little bit. That is the exact moment the fluid has actually moved out of the tissue, and you can literally feel it happen. Now, a serious safety point on this step, so make a mental note: never do this on both shoulders at the same time with full squeezing pressure. If you clamp down hard on both sides of the trapezius at once, it can trigger a symmetrical reflex that sends pain shooting straight up into your head, into your temples, your forehead, behind your eyes, and sometimes it can even cause a foggy, swimming, lightheaded feeling. So, the rule is dead simple. Do one side completely through all 4 steps, then switch to the other side. If you really want to work both sides together, the only thing that is safe is light shaking, which is this third step with absolutely no pressure and no squeezing at all. That is gentle, and it still drains beautifully. There is also a great combination move hidden inside this step. While you are holding the fold and vibrating it, you can slowly draw it upward toward your ear at the same time. Hold that stretch for a quick beat, then lower it back down as if you are laying the muscle gently back into its proper place. Pairing the vibration with that lengthwise stretch creates an extra powerful pump. You have the spinning force on one hand and a mechanical stretch on the vessel bed on the other. The combined effect is noticeably stronger than either move done on its own. The fourth and final step is drainage, and skipping it is the single biggest mistake you can make. You want to stroke firmly along the area you have been working, going from the neck outward toward the shoulder, from top to bottom, steering the fluid right toward the lymph nodes tucked into the little hollow just above your collarbone. Those are the main drop-off stations where lymph from your neck, your face, and the back of your head all collects. The idea here isn't a light, gentle pet. It is to squeeze the fluid along the way you would wring out a wet cloth. You can do this right through your clothing, and it works just as well. Here is why this step is completely non-negotiable. Without it, all the fluid you just shook loose will simply resettle right back into the exact same area, and the whole effect turns out to be temporary. The drainage stroke is what actually carries that fluid off into the lymphatic system to be cleared out for good. And when people actually go and measure these drainage strokes, the tissue can shrink noticeably in just a couple of minutes of stroking alone, with no other technique involved. People with soft, water-heavy swelling tend to see this happen the fastest. If your shoulder tissue is denser and more muscular, it will take more time and more sessions, but the change still comes. Let me clear up the questions that come up most often. Can you do this every day? Yes, absolutely, because it is not a damaging technique. Done correctly, you are not injuring the tissue. You are draining it. Working on it daily just gets you to the results faster. What if your shoulder is sore the next day? That is a completely normal reaction in the early sessions, a bit like the soreness you feel after trying a brand new workout, since the tissue just isn't used to being moved this way yet. When that happens, skip the deep squeezing for the day, but the light shaking from the third step is still perfectly fine and even helpful because it keeps the blood moving and clears things out faster so the soreness passes sooner. What if your hands are weak and you can't really hold the grip? Work lying down on your side or on your stomach, on your elbows, where the shoulder completely relaxes and comes to you so you barely need any hand strength at all. Shake your hands out between steps. You can even start with the finishing drainage stroke as a warm-up, since a minute of stroking softens the tissue and makes that very first grip much easier to hold. What about swelling right above the collarbone? Is it safe to work there? It is not just safe, it is the target. That is exactly the zone you want to pump because you are stimulating those lymph nodes directly. And can one of those vibrating massage guns replace this? Partly. A powerful percussion massager with a large head can stand in for the third step, the vibration part. But the key words there are powerful and large head. A small, weak attachment won't reach deep enough to do anything useful. And absolutely nothing replaces the first two steps, the squeezing and the directional stretching, because those depend entirely on you physically grabbing the muscle fiber and working it with your own hands. That is a completely different kind of mechanical contact. If you are doing this for someone else, like a partner, a parent, or your kid, you actually only need the third and fourth steps. Stand right behind them, take the top of the trapezius in a light grip, and gently shake it. No heavy pressing, no deep squeezing. Just the vibration, followed immediately by the smoothing drainage stroke down toward the collarbone. That is more than enough to lift the fatigue and give them real, noticeable relief. The one golden rule to remember is do not clamp both sides at once because of that same referred head pain we just talked about. When you finish one side, stop and compare the two before you move on. The side you just worked will feel noticeably softer, warmer, and lighter. And the soft mound on top of that shoulder will sit visibly lower than the other one. That is not just a feeling. It is a real physical change in the volume of the tissue, and you can actually see it in the mirror. Then you move to the other side and run the entire sequence again from the top. Now, let me connect this straight back to your face, because I know that is why a lot of you are here in the first place, dealing with that puffy outline, the heaviness right under the eyes, and that soft second chin. Here is the key thing to understand. Everything you do to your trapezius and the top of your shoulder feeds directly into exactly how your face looks. This isn't some superficial beauty trick. It is basic physiology. You are freeing up the main veins and lymph vessels of your neck, and once those are wide open, fluid finally drains away from your face the way nature always intended. The result is less puffiness, a much sharper jawline, and a fresher, more rested look without injections, without machines, and without booking a single appointment. It is just your own normal drainage coming back online. And it isn't a one-time fix either. With regular practice, around 10 to 15 minutes a day, those changes stack up and start to hold permanently. Here is another pattern that shows up in everyday records far more often than people realize. Picture someone like Carol. She is in her late 40s, was mostly focused on her face, and was utterly convinced her morning puffiness was just aging finally catching up with her. She had looked into expensive creams and had even priced out cosmetic procedures. Nobody had ever connected it to her shoulders. Once she started spending just a few minutes each evening freeing up that tension in her upper shoulders and opening the drainage in her neck, the morning puffiness eased right off and her face looked clearer and far more rested. Same face, same age, just fluid that was finally allowed to move. There is one more piece worth adding here, and it is about your posture. A chronically tight trapezius and sluggish neck drainage almost never travel alone. They usually come paired with a posture that has drifted out of place over time, with shoulders rolled forward and down and the head pushed out far ahead of the body. That forward head position loads the trapezius constantly, because now the muscle has to physically hold up a head that is hanging out in front of you instead of being balanced neatly on top of your spine. Your head weighs somewhere around 10 to 12 pounds. Imagine holding a 10-pound dumbbell out at arm's length all day long. That is essentially the grueling job your trapezius is doing every single minute your posture slips. So this work isn't only about cosmetic puffiness. It is about freeing a muscle from years of piled up tension it was never built to carry in the first place. And this is exactly why a professional shoulder massage tends to help for a little while and then fades right out. It is not that the massage is useless. It genuinely relaxes the muscle in the moment. The trouble is that the root cause remains in play the entire time. The therapist loosens everything up, it stays loose for a day or two, and then you sit right back down at the exact same desk, in the exact same posture, with the exact same shoulder hiked up and the exact same phone in your hand. Within a couple of days, you are right back where you started. Doing this yourself completely changes that math. You can do it every single day. You aren't waiting around on anyone else's schedule or budget. You feel your own muscle directly, and you can adjust the pressure to your own body in real time. Over time, you will actually start to catch a spasm right as it begins and ease it out before it ever has the chance to build up into something stubborn. Here is something genuinely worth knowing, and it ties directly to age. After about 45, the trapezius gets noticeably worse at recovering from a spasm on its own. The reason is partly because the fascia, which is the connective tissue wrapping around the muscle, loses some of its natural elasticity over the years, and partly because lymph drainage naturally slows down as we age. Put plainly, a tightness that used to clear up completely on its own in a single day when you were 30 can easily stick around for weeks in your 50s without some hands-on help. So, I am curious, how old are you? Drop your age in the comments below, because it genuinely shapes how stubborn this tension tends to be, and it helps me tailor exactly what I cover to the age groups that are actually watching. So here is the clear, practical summary of all of this if you want to put it to use today. The basic sequence on each shoulder goes exactly like this. You pinch up the fold right in the middle of the top of your shoulder and give it 8 to 10 firm squeezes of about 3 to 5 seconds each, with a 1-second pause between them. A moderate amount of discomfort is totally okay. Then, holding on to that fold, you stretch it as far as it will go in every single direction. Up, to the side, down, and forward. And draw 7 to 10 big, slow circles with it. Next, you lighten up your grip and start rotating the tissue, speeding up into a brisk, rapid shaking until the fold feels noticeably softer and smaller under your fingers. Then, you smooth the whole area firmly from your neck out toward your shoulder, pushing that fluid directly toward the lymph nodes right above your collarbone. And finally, you repeat the entire thing on the other side. Many people find that just 10 to 15 minutes a day is more than enough. If your shoulders are sore in those first few days, just stick to the gentle shaking with absolutely no squeezing. That soreness usually clears up in 2 to 3 days, and after that, the work goes much deeper and feels incredibly good. Give it 2 weeks of steady, daily practice, and then compare how your shoulders feel and how your face looks in the mirror. Most people are genuinely surprised by the difference. And remember, everything shared here is general information to help you understand your own body, not a personalized medical treatment plan. So, before you make this a regular habit, be sure to run it by a professional who knows your full health picture and can tell you whether it is the right move for you. If any of this helped you out, take a quick second to subscribe and leave a like, because that is what keeps this channel moving toward our 300,000 subscriber goal. If you want the step-by-step checklist to keep handy while you practice, it is waiting for you over on my Telegram channel. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now to grab it.